Hello, everyone. So, in celebration of Veterans Day, I am really excited to bring you this awesome conversation that I had with a retired Army military homeschooling family. My guests are Walt and Katie Cheshire. They are a retired Army couple. They are parents of 8 children. They are military homeschoolers. And we have just had an awesome conversation that I know will be very encouraging. We've talked about their military experience, their military homeschooling journey, a few health challenges that they have wavered through, as well as how HSLDA has been able to come alongside them in making homeschooling possible for them. I hope you enjoy this conversation. I think we should get started just letting our viewers know a little bit more about you. Homeschoolers like to know all the details, specifically, of course, who you are, but also how many children you have. And we want to talk a little bit about your homeschooling journey, your military experience, which we have in common, both of those, and your relationship with HSLDA. So if you can just let us know who you are actually and how many kids you have.
Well, we're Walt and Katie Cheshire. I'm retired Army, 29 years, and we have 8 children, ages 26 down to 15.
So how long have you all been homeschooling?
Well, Christian's 26, so when he was 4, maybe we started doing something more official.
What pivoted you to homeschooling, and what was that process like?
Katie was working before we had children, and she has her master's degree, and she was working for the government. But when we had children, she decided she was going to stay home and invest in the children. And so I think that was the big decision that started it.
We were living in Okinawa, Japan, and Christian was a newborn. And that's when I read Christopher Klicka's Homeschooling the Right Choice. And we'd also been watching our pastor's family before we ever had children, and they homeschooled. And God just put in my heart that this is the road you need to take. We've never looked back.
You never look back. That is such a common story that it seems God places homeschoolers around us, and then he tugs on our heart. And then to actually have read Chris Klicka's book, wow, tell us a little bit about that. What in the book inspired you? Give us a little bit about that.
Well, it's been about 25 years since I've looked at the book.
Yeah. But what did you feel when you read it?
The encouragement that you can do this, and it's not an impossible feat, that other people have gone before you, and that just the nurturing of your children. Many of our children had passion for different areas, and so it was so wonderful to go with their interests and passion and that delightful directed learning.
Yes, definitely. So, okay, so we've heard Okinawa, Germany, and HEAV in Virginia. So true military moving all around. And so therefore, as a military family, were there unique challenges? What was that life like for you as a military homeschooler?
Well, it's hard because you're moving around a lot. And that was, a consideration also for homeschooling as well, that you don't have to take your children in and out of school. And now, looking back, we'll just say that was the best decision we could have made.
Within the military families, the decision to homeschool is growing. And so I feel as if more and more families are realizing that with the constant relocation, this is a very viable option, right? To keep the family, the consistency of education. Military families, we often hear about how resilient we are. And we hear, thank you for your service. And while I personally, and I'm sure you might agree, appreciate the sentiment when people say thank you for your service, there's no way for them to really know what that service actually entailed and what the sacrifices have been for our country. And we serve because we want to, because we love our country and we feel called to serve. But it can be mountains and valleys, right? So let's talk a little bit about your some of those, I guess. Let's talk a little bit about some of the valleys and with the military journey as in your experience as a military family.
I did one deployment to Iraq for a year, but also, just the constant training deployments, going away for 30 days or, 60 days at a time, and just being gone from the family. So, Katie, basically, she had to run the roost there. It was not necessarily easy for her. It was in many cases much harder for her than it was for me, because I just go out and do the job, but she's at home having to manage and also, homeschool, take care of the children. And then, and then when, you get sick and things, then it gets even worse. That's happened to us as well.
Now, how long did you serve, Walt? Or how long did your family serve is what I should say, because I believe the family serves. So how long?
Right. Well, I was in for 29 years. So I was in for 7 years when Katie and I got married. So definitely over 20 for the family. And the family is still serving because 2 of our sons are in the Air Force right now.
So you mentioned health challenges. You want to talk a little bit about that. That's part of the service, right? That's more and more common. The wounded warriors, the veterans who have served. I can speak for my husband, the same situation of, serving 34 years, right? And so what are some of those challenges that you just alluded to?
Do you mind if I go back to Iraq?
You go back,
First?
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Please do.
That was probably the hardest year of our life. And Isaac had just been born. And so we had 6 children, 8 and under.
Katie was diagnosed with hyperthyroidism because I was in Iraq, and she was basically, we had just gotten to our duty station, and I basically got up a few minutes later. She had a baby, and then I left. So she was under a lot of duress. The hyperthyroidism was a big deal. And then later on,
We ended up in ER a lot. I was very sick. Finally, 4 years later, I got diagnosed with Lyme disease. So he was retired by that point. So he really stepped in while I was in bed, probably sometimes 80% of the time.
in 2018, I was actually diagnosed with squamous cell carcinoma in my jawbone. And so I had to do some extensive surgery, and they took out my jawbone, put my leg bone in, and even they're still working on me as far as that goes. But thankfully, so far, the cancer has not returned. I'm not the same as I used to be, but we're coping. God's getting us through it.
Yeah, I understand. Definitely. So, with the health challenges, you continued homeschooling.
Mhm.
Yes.
And at that time, my olders were a huge help because I spent a lot of time at the hospital and his recovery, and my older ones were able to really pitch in and help with the youngers.
And we have been beneficiaries of the HSLDA Compassion. That has been a great help, especially the times that I couldn't work. The end result is that we're able to continue to homeschool, and it's just blessed our family immensely.
Well, I'm thankful that we were able to be there definitely for you. So, how many children do you have at home now that you're homeschooling?
Well, 6 are still at home and 3 are homeschooling.
I'm sure that they're thankful that you were able to homeschool them throughout that whole military experience.
hmm They all plan to homeschool their children, and that does my heart good.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yes. That'd be awesome. You may have grandkids at some point coming over and you can homeschool as well.
Yep, they're already planning for me to be involved. Keep on that curriculum, Mom.
Yeah, that is so awesome. So I wanted to also say, when you look back over your journey so far and you're still in the midst of the homeschooling journey, you look back over, what are some moments or highlights that stand out to you?
When I was laid up in the hospital after my cancer surgery, and then our son Caleb, who had just graduated from homeschool, actually hadn't graduated yet, and he came to me and told me that he got his Air Force ROTC scholarship, 4-year scholarship. I mean, that was a real blessing. So, I mean, here I am, totally out of it, and all of a sudden, wow, something exciting has happened. That's great. So.
Now with the 2 older boys gone, it just makes me so grateful for the time that we had. That if I had sent them off to school, and that's just those hours and hours that add up, the fellowship that you have together, homeschooling is priceless.
Thank you so much for being willing to share with us your journey, your faith, your relationship with HSLDA, how we've been able to impact your family. We're very thankful to have been able to play such a role.
And thank you.
Thank you,
much.
Natalie.